Hello, my name is Marco Kuntze. I'm the Director of Relishing Digital. And in this short session, I want to talk to you about how to launch a Facebook challenge in a new market. And we will also have a lot of useful information for running your first Facebook challenge as well. So the challenge I was working on was with a Norwegian organization called Drop in the Ocean. And it was the first time we ran a Facebook challenge in Norway. And all the photos that you're seeing in this session are actually taken from the Facebook group, from the participants that they shared with us. And you can see how amazing they are and how well this worked. The charity is a very small organization. It has only one fundraiser and very few staff. Mostly run by volunteers, dealing with refugees. And this was before the war, so it was a very, very difficult challenge, a difficult topic, but they were doing really well already on Facebook with birthday fundraisers and some other campaigns. So for the first campaign with them, we managed to raise over 75,000 euro for an ad spend of around 2,000 euro, an overall return on investment of 4.5, and we nearly got 1,100 new contacts through that campaign. In fact, it was of the 1,300, 85% of them were new contacts. So we can already see that Facebook challenges are a really good way of recruiting new people into the organization. So the first thing to think about when running your first campaign, especially in a new market, is to think about it like a pilot campaign. So it's really about designing it to get as much data as you can. And gain insights. So it's really testing and learning. It is not getting it perfect. It's not about always kind of raising just as much money as possible. It is really as much about understanding what works and what doesn't, so that you can run the next campaign even better and that you can scale up. And sometimes when we run these campaigns, we can already see that they are performing very well. And we want to encourage you, if that is the case, to be ready to scale up, to invest a little bit more in the ads, for example, or some creative. The second thing is to really keep it simple. So focus on the essentials of the campaign, on what really drives it, rather than trying to do everything with it. These campaigns can become very, very complex when one builds them out further and further. So for these kind of campaigns in new markets where you're running for the first time, keeping it to just the essentials is my recommendation. Also to choose a simple concept, a simple fundraising campaign, rather something that can be overly complex and maybe too difficult to understand and to execute. Also, just try and do it in one new country, and doing it in multiple countries can be challenging, and only in one language. I've seen campaigns where we tried to do it in 4 languages right at the beginning, and it turned out that over 90% of all the money raised was actually just in English. So we spent a lot of time doing languages and countries that were a little bit of a waste of time that we could have done much better instead. So we chose 300,000 steps in November. So it can't really get easier in that sense. It's also something that we know that would work in November. So it's starting with something that is easy to understand and easy to execute. And 300,000 steps or something of that sort is the one that we always know, and that we've seen actually that works in many countries. And that's really the next point. It's like, do what already works. So look at the established messaging and user journey. Don't try and change them back and forth, but just stick to what you already know works. There are hundreds of Facebook challenge campaigns already out there, and we have a lot of knowledge, and those messages and journeys really work well. The incentives are critical, and we've seen this again, how they were received and the difference they made, both for recruitment, but also for fundraising. And then the third one in this category is that groups or group engagement really is pivotal for success, not just to get as many people in as possible, but actually to get them to get really engaged. So when we talk about simplicity, you can see these ads, although they're in Norwegian, you already get the feeling of what they are, and you can see how similar they are to many of the ads that you may have seen in the UK, Ireland, the US, and so on. So really to the point, and just talking about those 300 steps in November, you know, put it in your calendar, take the challenge, and get your beanie, as it was in this case. So the group really was at the center of what we did. 2,000 members we recruited, and it was all about those photos of people walking out in the snow and looking really amazing and having a great time while raising money, but also start talking a lot about the cause, the charity, because so many people were obviously new to the organization. So the group is really the heartbeat of any of these campaigns. And then finally, adapt to culture. So on the right, you can see this is an example of a lead table, and this is something that you would use in the UK, definitely in the US. However, in Norway, this is something that would never work. People will not put themselves out. They don't want to be seen in that way. So we never kind of use those leaderboards, and really here it is about the messaging and the incentives to make them relevant to the culture. This works for internationally, but also your organization. So if you're a soldiers charity, for example, you might want to choose something that's more of a challenge. If you are a disability charity, then you might want to choose something that's more about inclusivity. So it's similar messaging, but we adapt it to the culture of the country or the charity. And in this case, also very much over communicate, because it's for the first time maybe in the country, or the first time that these people take part in. So we need to communicate more and more with them, more than we always think we should. And finally, allow for off-Facebook donations. This is for all campaigns, but sometimes if it's in countries where Facebook has a slightly different reputation or reach, it is even more important to offer offline donations or off-Facebook donations. So as I said, cultural adapting to the culture, T-shirts, which is sort of the standard thing that you do for walks, doesn't work when you're walking in November in Norway, because it's really cold, -8 degrees, snow. So we went for the beanie, which was received so well. People loved the beanie because it was useful and it looked good, just a little logo on there. And so this is all about how you adapted to the country or to your cause, as it was. And then finally, I just wanted to raise again, this was some of the most engaged posts. It is dogs. They work for pretty much any campaign, and there's no relationship to the charity. But using dogs in those photos or animals are always a really nice and good thing to do. Thank you very much, and I hope this was useful for you to think about your first campaign, especially if it's in the new campaign in a new country. Thank you. Bye-bye.